Welcome to Highland League Weekly, the podcast. I'm Ryan Cryle. I'm joined by Callum and Paul Third, as usual this week as we discuss all of the games across the Breedon Highland League over the weekend. Our main game this week is Formartine United against Brora Rangers from North Lodge Park. If you want to watch highlights of this match, you can watch them over on the main Highland League Weekly show on the Press and Journal website. Just a reminder, you need to be a subscriber to watch that, but you can subscribe via our sports pack and that'll get you full access. If you just like discussion of the weekend's results, you're in the right place. Formartine against Brora, 3-3 this one finished. I mean, pretty entertaining game this one, I thought. Formartine bouncing back, and after a week where they'd had a couple of bad results, I mean, the position they found themselves in, they could have easily lost it.
I think, well, there's a couple of sort of important decisions towards the end that we'll come on to, but I think overall, with the way the game panned out, it was a better point for Formartine than it was for Brora, just because it'd been 2-0 behind and then 3-2 behind late on, and as Stuart Anderson was sort of touching on afterwards, lost in the Scottish Cup to Buckie 2-0, lost in Aberdeenshire Shield to Fraserburgh 2-1, and in both games, they weren't really at the levels they've hit earlier in the season. And you know, it's on Saturday 2-0 at half time, and they found themselves behind, make no mistake, to two bits of quality finishing. I mean, for both goals, actually, Brora moved the ball really well, but both finishes for Robbie Thompson and Tony Dingwall, top class. And you know, in that position, it might have been easy to go, it's not our day again, and sort of, you know, roll over, but that didn't happen, and give them a lot of credit for that. You know, the 2 goals so quickly at the start of the second half brought them right back into it, and we got a really exciting conclusion. And I think, I mean, overall, I think if you'd said to Brora before the game you'd come away with a point, they might have been reasonably content, but how it played out, they'd obviously be unhappy to only walk away with a point. But and the same for Formartine, again, they'd have loved to have won it as well. But a point, as both managers said after, a point might not be the worst result. And you look at the top of the table just now, and it's so close and it's fascinating. I mean, Formartine's top, 34 points for 15 games. Fraserburgh second, 33 for 16. Brechin third, 32 from 14. And Brora fourth, 31 from 13. So, you know, I know there's obviously everyone's played different games, but it's really interesting at the moment and changing all the time.
For those that haven't seen the highlights, obviously Julian Wade in the second half for Formartine, pretty much at the centre of a lot of the stuff. I mean, he scored the first one. Did he set up the second one?
He did. Well, he had a hand in it by teeing up Aaron Norris, but with the first one, it's good play. But I do think if Ross Draper just stands up, there's not really any great danger. He commits himself in a position where I don't think he needs to win the ball. But take nothing away from Julian Wade, he took it really well. And then the second one, I think Aaron Norris deserves a lot of credit for his sort of desire to run beyond and make something happen by getting down the wing. It's a good cross for Glenn Murison, and then after that, obviously, we come to the sort of
the craziness,
the crazy last 5 minutes.
Okay, so we'll start with the 3-2 goal. Brora going ahead again via Shane Sutherland. Was it handball?
For me, yes, because I know there is this sort of thing about the shoulder and the sleeve, and if it sort of gets you there, you get away with it. But if you sort of watch, where I have sympathy for the referee to a point is, I don't think he's necessarily in the best position to see it, but it obviously happens very quickly and you only get one look at it. But if you watch it and you see the freeze frame, when the ball rebounds off Matthew McLean and Shane Sutherland makes contact for the second time, it hits him sort of there, where part of the ball's hit his sleeve and part of it's hit his bare arm. Now, like for me, if it's hitting you there, that really is low enough to just, you know, to be handball. And I think it's not that I wouldn't want VAR to come in, obviously, at Highland League level, but I think if you were watching that at the top level and you had the benefit of the video assistant, I think that would be ruled out for handball. But at the same time, to me, that was handball, but at the same time, that's no Brora or Shane Sutherland's fault. You know, he's, by hook or by crook, he's made sure the ball's in the net, and obviously the goal stood. But I could see why you saw afterwards, like Scott Ross for Martin was protesting to the referee and that. And I mean, it's a split second call, it happens fast, but I do think when you see the freeze frame, it's hit him low enough down that it is handball for me.
I mean, you pointed out to me, 30 yesterday, the issue with the late Formartine equaliser at 3-3. Do you want to talk us through what happened there? I mean, things were evened up. We could
that's one way of putting it. I mean, I was doing the commentary, and I don't think any of us were aware at the time of that ball was still in.
Well, being at the game, sitting on the far side, 80 yards of it was quite hard to tell.
How let's call him the linesman. How the linesman can be standing right as close as I am to Callum at the minute, and go, oh yeah, that ball's out, and put his hand up, his flag up. I don't understand it at all. It's clearly still in play, because it's got to be the whole ball, and you're lucky if the ball barely just reaches the line, never mind crosses it.
So it's a throw-in that shouldn't have been.
Yeah. Now, you could argue that Brora, as a lot happens before that ball ends up in the back of Brora's net, but it shouldn't be a throw-in. It shouldn't be a throw-in. It should be away, and it's down the other end of the park, quite possibly, and a different result altogether if that decision doesn't happen.
Well, see what you're saying there is it's interesting, because I know Stephen Mackay's since seen it back and obviously unhappy about the throw-in being given, but I thought his quotes after the game are quite telling as well, that he said in that situation at 3-2 up with a couple of minutes to go, he's looking for his experienced players to take command of that situation, and they didn't. So as much as it shouldn't be a throw-in, but I know Brora will all, and let's make no bones about it, that shouldn't have been a throw-in. That, as you're saying, it's a shocker, but Brora will also look at that and go, they could have defended it better. In fairness, you mentioned Julian Wade, did think it was a very clever header for him when the ball comes back in. It would have been easy maybe to direct that towards goal yourself, or not really get it into a good area, but he got it right on the money for the players coming in, and Scott Ross has finished it. But I mean, all that, I think over the piece, with what both teams put into the game, the chances they created, and also the bit of the decisions at the end, I do think a draw was right over the balance of play. It was a fair result, and not that two wrongs make a right, but in the end, they've both come away with sort of one decision they can moan about, but at least, you know, both have got a point out of it, and it's given us plenty to speak about on here, so
yes,
all good, and plenty of
keep
entertainment.
it up, boys.
Perhaps too much. Let's move on then, because we've got plenty more games to get through. So we'll start with Clachnacuddin 6, Forest Mechanics 0, a repeat of the North of Scotland Cup final. Different result though. Alan McPhee scoring direct from a corner before he set up James Anderson. After the break, Alan McPhee completed his hat-trick before James Anderson scored again, and Fergus Adams completed the scoring. Comprehensive, this one. Steve McDonald, the Forest manager, not too happy. Connor Gethin's the Clach manager, thrilled.
Well, you've kind of summed it up there, really, Ryan. I mean, it was dominant display, I think, basically from start to finish by Clach. Good win for them, takes them up to 5th in the table above Banks of Dee, whose game was postponed. And I think, really, there's no question, given it was only a fortnight ago, there was probably an element of we need to get revenge for the cup final. And on this occasion, you know, Clach got themselves in a good position, a couple of goals up, and they didn't relinquish the advantage, which they did, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and Forest weren't able to come back. And I mean, you know, it's a funny sort of one away, because obviously good day for Clach and that, and they'll be happy with the points. But at the same time, I mean, Steve McDonald said after Forest were just sort of second best all over the park, and you know, you just got to write it off and say that can't happen again. But at the same time, for Forest, I'm sure they'll be able to sort of put up with that, given that they've obviously got a trophy in their cabinet. So these things happen. The only other bit of news I was going to mention that as well is Clach handed a debut to Ben Gardner, who's joined on loan for Cali Thistle. Bit of well, I was going to say a funny one, but it's nearly funny for the player involved. But they got Ben Corner on loan last week, and he played in the Scottish Cup. Their Scottish Cup tie that they won against Sochi, but then he's picked up a wee bit of knee trouble, so I believe he's gone back to Cali Thistle, and now they've gotten Ben Gardner instead, and apparently he came on and did quite well as a sub.
I think it's funny afterwards when you see Connor Gethin saying, like, oh, I don't know if it was a player who's looking for revenge, I'm not sure, but it was a great performance, when you know that, like, the manager's in the dressing room before the game going, we've got to get revenge.
Well, he's a man that had a lot to say after the cup final, remember?
Yeah, well, Anyway, let's move on. So, Inverurie Locos 2, Buckie Thistle 3. Robert Ward and Josh Peters exchanged goals for the sides before Peters put Buckie 2-1 up at the break. Josh Bucking, I'm led to believe, great finish. Was it just
there was some excellent finishing. Yeah. Josh Peters' first goal is a tremendous finish as well.
But Daryl McHardy, ultimately, he headed the winner. Locos also had a goal chalked off for offside in this one.
It is offside, yeah. First of all, I mean, these two teams are going to play again in the Highland League Cup this weekend, and on the basis of the highlights I've watched, if we get a repeat of this game, it's going to be a terrific occasion. It's amazing to me that Locos are third bottom in the league. 10 defeats in their opening 15 games, but because they gave so much to this game. But Buckie's finishing is excellent. Josh Peters is now in 10, and I know Halloween's just passed, but it does look like Darrell McHardy's been possessed by the spirit of Jack Murray here. That's 9 goals for him so far this season, which is tremendous going. 6 unbeaten now for Buckie. They're going well.
Yeah, I was terrified there of who you'd been possessed by the spirit of. We're not filming the repeat of this game, are we?
We are. It's a main game.
Oh, you've given that a kiss of death, Paul.
But if it's 0-0, at least we'll get penalties. There'll be something to come out with it.
Good. Lossiemouth 0, Keith 2. Keith hadn't scored in Lossie. You're going to hate me for using this stat, but I hadn't scored at Lossie in 6 years.
It's not just that they hadn't scored, they hadn't won at Grant Park in 6 years either.
They had a full head of hair the last time they won there.
Yeah. I mean, tough to win if you haven't scored, to be fair.
Well, they lost their last 4. That's their last 4 visits to Grant Park. So I don't know how. First goal clearly lifted that cloud or that hoodoo for Keith, and they've gone on to get a very important win. It's 7 points now in the last 3.
I was going to say, it feels like they've got going.
Yeah. Lossie, I mean, to be fair, they'd taken 7 out of 9 from their previous games going into this one, but they've only scored, is it 8 goals all season in the league? That's the problem, and it's been an annual problem for quite a few years now. That's what the Coasters need to address if they want to be moving further up the table.
I haven't seen it yet, but I hope by the time this goes out we might have it. But if we don't, I'm told that Jordan Cooper's celebration for Keith's opener was a sight to behold. But I mean, until we see it, we can't. I don't ken whether that's the case or not. But that's what I've been told.
Oh, there's a Jordan Cooper header and then a strike from Callum Robertson that was described as terrific. That made the difference in this one. Okay, Rothes 2, Huntly 5. Now, a lot of goals in this to get through. Sam Robertson penalty and the Brodie Allen header had Huntly 2-0 up. Ross Logan pulled one back for Rothes, but before half time Robertson had scored again. Andy Hunter back at Huntly, he then netted Roth's Sam Rothney, got another goal back for the hosts, but James Connolly completed the scoring. Cameron Heslop then sent off for what was described as a yellow card and a straight red for dissent by the sounds of things in a game that Huntly were winning 5-2, so not really sure what happened there, but maybe you can enlighten us.
I don't actually know if it happened with that, but I mean, I do know that the referee in question, like, you can't say a lot to him, let's put it like that, so, but we want to dwell on that. But I think in terms of the game, last week we were sort of sitting here, and well, Colin Charlesworth had said it as well, bemoaning Huntly's failure to put the ball in the net against Strathspey, but you couldn't throw that accusation at them this week. They've done well in the final third, and I mean, Angus Grant picked up an injury last weekend, but you look at this week and Sam Robertson's chipped in with 2, Brodie Allen scored, and Andy Hunter, they obviously moved to bring back to the club for Banks a day. He scored in his first appearance of his second spell, so despite obviously Huntly sort of awaiting news of Angus Grant's injury, certainly on Saturday in the final third, it was pretty rosy for them.
How does that injury look?
Well, he's waiting to get a scan on it, is what my understanding of it. So he's still, in the dark at the moment in terms of the extent of it. And well, that doesn't sitting on the fence. That's just the truth. But
there's no news.
This is it. That's what I've been told. But so that was all. In terms of the attacking play, very positive for Huntly. Another wee positive for them, speaking about injuries, first appearance for Jamie Mickey, came on as a sub for the last 15 minutes, and Jamie has been out with a ruptured cruciate ligament and a torn meniscus since the end of the 23-24 season. The second half of that season he was with Forest and picked up that injury Huntley then signed him in the summer of 2024, knowing that he had this, injury he was trying to get to the bottom of, and he said he's operation and he's rehab and everything, so he's just coming back now. So I know it's been a sort of a long wait for Jamie, and some folk maybe at the stage he's at in his career were thinking, will that just be him sort of hanging up the boots? But he's been desperate to get back, so he'll hope that's the first of many appearances for Huntley. Speaking about Rothes, it's the same old problem really. Struggling defensively, set pieces especially seem to be their Achilles heel, and Huntley are, in terms of the players they are quite a big side as well and can carry that threat at set pieces. And Ronnie Sharps, I said afterwards that Rothes just struggled to deal with that, and it's like with their forward players like Ross Logan, Rory Duncan, Jake Thompson, guys like that, I've said it multiple times, they do carry a threat and cause problems going forward, but they they're not giving themselves enough of a chance at the other end defensively.
Turriff United won, Strathspey Thistle won. Miller Keir's first half goal for Turriff cancelled out by Liam Shewan's early second half. Penalty, Strathspey the happier here?
I think a point away from home's a decent result, and that's been the big difference for Strathspey this season. They're grinding out results here and there, and it's just keeping them ticking over nicely. But from a Turriff point of view, Miller Keir, that's him into double figures now, 10. He's done well since coming in from Hall Russell. But if you look at league table, they're the draw specialists. Turriff at 6 draws now, the most of any team in the division. They need to get a couple of wins in there, and that moves them up 3-4 places. So that's how fine the margins are in the bottom half of the table, just a couple of points between so many teams, and that's going to make a big difference coming into the season.
Okay, a sad one to discuss here now. Wick Academy against Brechin City was postponed at the weekend, and the other game to take place, or which at least started, was Nairn County against Brechin City. Nairn had taken the lead through Ben Barron after 7 minutes, with Spencer Moreland equalising for City a couple of minutes later. Callum Mackay restored County's lead 11 minutes before half-time. However, the match was abandoned at half-time due to supporter illness in the crowd. That supporter, it's understood, has since passed away, which is obviously terrible news.
Aye, very much so. It's our thoughts and condolences really are just with that person's friends and family, and obviously the people at Nairn County as well, because it was a Nairn fan, and I'm sure the person will be well known to people at Nairn, and even just for the people who are at the game, it's not something you would ever really want to happen.
Yeah.
Like
nobody should go to a game and not come home. That's
exactly, and I know there were paramedics there obviously trying to treat the person and that, and other supporters probably see that and were probably trying to help and things. It said, as Thirdy said, nobody should go to a game and not come home, and it's a sad thing to happen, and it's for everything we sort of speak about in here, it always things like that always put football in the game in perspective, really.
Yeah. Okay, one more game to discuss from Friday night. This one, Deveronvale 1, Fraserburgh 3, but the headlines from this one, Callum, is a player that wasn't there for Deveronvale.
Oh yes, but I'll come to that. But in terms of the game, first of all, I thought Fraserburgh thoroughly deserved their victory. Deveronvale started really well, got an early goal 3 minutes through Dem Eunice. In the first half an hour, they sort of caused problems and were looking quite good. But after that, I thought Fraserburgh took a grip of the game really, and they were pushing before half-time. Will Sim equalised, and then after half-time, quite soon, I think it was 4 minutes in the second half, Sean Butcher scored, and they were on top. And then Callum Gray's third sealed the points for Fraserburgh, and it was a very good win for them on the night, and I think quite disappointing for Deveronvale in terms of how they'd started, that they didn't really push on. But as you're alluding to, Jamie MacLellan, the Vale captain, didn't turn up for the game, and Gary Wood was saying afterwards that he's apparently told Deveronvale that he won't be returning because he wishes to move elsewhere, and Gary had some quite strong things to say about that, and it's a sort of difficult situation, and I think a situation that both parties would rather it hadn't come to. But Jamie MacLellan's been the sort of subject of transfer interest, and I think he's had sort of said to Deveronvale that he would wish to go. But the thing is, he's under contract, and you know, if you're under contract, the club is quite within its rights to say, well, we're not selling you, we expect you to turn up and give your all for the club. And I can see it from both points of view. I mean, like for Deveronvale as a club and for Deveronvale supporters, like, they'll be pretty disappointed with what's happened, I would imagine, and, you know, expecting Jamie MacLellan to turn up and, you know, do what he's been doing, because over the last sort of 2.5 years that he's been here, he's been a key player for the Bamfors, was made club captain this season and everything like that. So I can understand their stance, but at the same time, the player, you know, has expressed his wish to go, and I think maybe prior to sort of last week in the build up to the game, I think he was maybe, from what I've heard, he potentially felt that there was maybe going to be some joy and a sort of resolution to the situation, and that his move might have been forthcoming, but then that hasn't happened, and, you know, rightly or wrongly, he's felt that in terms of getting what he wants, this is the only course of action he can take, and I would imagine he'd rather not have taken that course of action, but that's what he's decided to do. And really, I think, given, you know, Deveronvale's been good for Jamie MacLellan, but also Jamie MacLellan's been good for Deveronvale, it's a shame really that it's come to this. But I think, and you know, even I see reading comments for folk and you hear folks speaking about it, I think the opinion on it all is quite split, in terms of a lot of people think, well, it's very poor that he has, you know, he's effectively gone on strike or not turned up, whatever you want to say. But then there's other people saying, well, if that's the case and you've got an unhappy player, you're better just to make the best of it and move him on. And that's the key thing now really, is what happens next, because, you know, the Deveronvale stance on Friday, because I was at the game, the stance on Friday was that we're not selling him, and if he wants to sit on the sidelines, then so be it. But really, in terms of the longer term picture, does that do anybody any good? Nay, really, because Jamie wouldn't be playing, and also Deveronvale are getting no benefit from him, in that if he's not playing for them, they don't have his abilities in their team, and if he's still there and on the sidelines, it's not like they've been able to bring in any money by selling him or anything like that. So
he's on a long-term deal too, is he?
I believe he's got another 3 years on his deal, so we'll see how it plays out. But clearly not a situation I don't think anybody would want to find themselves in. But it's a position between Deveronvale and Jamie now, so you wait and see how it plays out, really. But I mean, it's not what I would say as well is it's not the first or the last time it'll happen. These things go on in football.
Alright, well, we'll see how it plays out, but let's at the moment have a look at the latest Breedon Highland League standings. That's it then for this episode of Highland League Weekly, the podcast. Thanks to Callum and Paul for joining me. Just a reminder, if you'd like to watch highlights of the Saturday clash between Formartine United and Brora Rangers, we've got full highlights over on our main Highland League Weekly show, which you can access as a Press and Journal subscriber. Next time we see you will be next week. In the meantime, keep up to date with everything Highland League and Highland League Weekly from the Press and Journal via social media, and please enjoy the games, whichever ones you're watching.